The morning sun filtered through cream curtains as Mia stood barefoot on the cool kitchen tiles, humming softly while flipping pancakes. The smell of vanilla and coffee mingled with the early light. Across the room, Ethan leaned against the doorframe, watching her like he always did, smiling with that gentle, guarded look that made her believe he saw no one but her. Mia said, "Don't forget to call your mom back." And Ethan replied, "Already did, she's excited to see us." It was ordinary. Blissfully ordinary. She believed in it, in him. Their rhythm was quiet but intimate, shared glances, unfinished jokes, fingers brushing during dishes. The way he kissed her temple made her feel chosen. And when he handed her the reunion invitation that had arrived a week early, she had no idea the card would become a fracture point. Mia smiled and said, "Finally, they'll love you." Ethan just nodded, eyes momentarily unreadable. She didn't notice the pause. Why would she? She trusted him completely. The next day, the invitation lay pinned on the fridge like a badge of honor. Mia ran her fingers over the paper, as if touching it made the joy more real. "You ready to meet the circus?" she asked playfully, pulling her suitcase from the closet. Ethan laughed and said, "If your uncle starts wrestling again, I'm out." She giggled. These were her people, her roots, chaotic, loud, loving. She had dreamed of bringing Ethan home since their first date. It felt symbolic, like the final seal. As she packed, she tucked in the dress she wore on their third date, red fluttery, the one he'd said made her unforgettable. Ethan watched her from the doorway again, quieter this time. He said, "They'll love me, right?" Mia answered, "They'll adore you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Her words were full of truth and trust. She didn't see how his eyes didn't quite meet hers when he smiled. Instead, she zipped the suitcase and walked into a future she didn't know was about to break her heart. Mia's best friend Tasha stopped by that afternoon, dropping off a travel charger. "You really bringing him?" she asked, arching a brow. Mia rolled her eyes. "Yes, Tasha, he's practically family." Tasha hesitated. "Just don't romanticize everything, okay?" Mia frowned. "What does that mean?" Tasha softened. "It's probably nothing. Something about him sometimes feels off. You trust too easily." Mia turned away, hurt flashing in her eyes. "He's never given me a reason not to." Tasha opened her mouth to argue but closed it again, offering a strained smile instead. "Have fun, babe." As she left, Mia stood by the window watching Ethan wash the car in the driveway. Shirt off, laughing into the hose spray, looking like the man every woman dreams of. She whispered to herself, "He's perfect." But in the back of her mind, Tasha's words lingered, unwanted seeds of doubt starting to root. Later that evening, Mia sat cross-legged on the bed, scrolling through photos of Ethan on her phone. From silly selfies to candid beach shots, their story played in pixels. She stopped on a video. He'd surprised her with cupcakes on her birthday, singing off-key in his towel. Her laugh echoed through the clip. She smiled, clutching the phone. Ethan entered the room and dropped a kiss on her head. "Looking at me again?" he teased. She nodded. "You're my favorite subject." He lay beside her, resting his head on her lap. "Let's make this weekend unforgettable." Mia said, "It already is." They fell asleep tangled in sheets and silence. She slept peacefully. Ethan didn't. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, chest rising and falling slowly, like a man preparing for something he didn't want to do. But when she shifted in her sleep to hold him tighter, he whispered, "I'm sorry," so softly it evaporated into the dark. The morning of the trip arrived with the scent of rain in the air. Mia wore her travel hoodie and sneakers, suitcase rolling behind her as Ethan loaded the trunk. She glanced at him with that love-struck glow. "Let's go make some memories." He smiled, kissed her forehead and said, "Let's do it." The drive began with music, laughter, highway coffee, and endless talk about what dish Aunt Beth would try to reinvent. But somewhere between exits, Ethan fell quiet. "You okay?" she asked. He said, "Yeah, just thinking." She accepted it, not noticing the way his grip tightened on the wheel. The trees rushed by in green streaks. In that quiet, Mia leaned back and thought how lucky she was. He was hers. He was going to meet her whole world. She didn't know, as she gazed out that window, that he was bringing someone else into it, someone who would shatter everything. The gravel crunched under the tires as their car turned into the long driveway leading to the family estate. The place looked just as Mia remembered. Sprawling porch, white siding, the giant oak tree her cousins used to climb. Ants were already spilling out onto the lawn, waving wildly. Mia grinned, her excitement glowing. Ethan kept his smile steady, though his leg bounced slightly. Mia squeezed his hand. "Home," she whispered. He nodded. "It's beautiful." She beamed as she jumped out of the car, engulfed in hugs and noisy greetings. Ethan followed more slowly, shaking hands, smiling with that practiced charm. "You must be Ethan," Uncle Leo bellowed. "Welcome to the madness." Everyone laughed. But as Mia introduced him around, Ethan's eyes flicked to the edge of the crowd. A woman in a yellow sundress stood by the porch, half hidden. Mia didn't notice her. Ethan did. He looked away quickly, but not quickly enough. Inside the house, chaos reigned, kids running through hallways, casseroles crowding countertops, voices bouncing off the high ceilings. Mia floated through it all, introducing Ethan to her relatives, laughing like she hadn't in months. Ethan played along perfectly, remembering names, complimenting the lemon pie, even enduring Aunt Grace's tarot reading. "You're us. Complicated," she said with narrowed eyes. Ethan chuckled, deflecting. Mia nudged him, whispering, "She's harmless." But every so often his eyes drifted. Down the hall. Toward the back patio. The woman in yellow hadn't been introduced. She stood alone by the railing, nursing a drink, eyes fixed somewhere far away. At one point, Ethan excused himself for a phone call. Mia nodded, distracted by a cousin's toddler climbing onto her lap. Outside, the air was thick with cicadas. He approached the woman slowly. "What are you doing here?" he muttered. She said nothing. Just sipped her drink and looked through him. Ethan stepped onto the porch, his breath catching slightly. The woman turned, finally facing him. She was in her late 20s, graceful, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Didn't think I'd come?" she asked. Ethan hissed, "You weren't supposed to." She shrugged. "Plans change. Besides, you invited me, remember?" His voice dropped, tense and low. "Not like this." She tilted her head. "Relax. I'm not here to ruin anything. Unless you want me to." Inside, laughter swelled as a karaoke machine kicked on. Mia's voice rang out faintly, off-key and joyful. Ethan turned toward the noise, jaw tightening. "Mia doesn't know. Don't even talk to her." The woman chuckled. "You're shaking. That guilt catching up?" She took a step closer. "You said she was just a phase." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he ran a hand through his hair and walked away, shoulders stiff. Behind him she watched, smirking slightly, like a storm waiting to break. Night fell with string lights twinkling across the backyard, like stars tangled in wires. Mia was on the dance floor, barefoot and radiant, leading her cousins through a ridiculous line dance. Ethan laughed along, pretending to enjoy it, but his eyes kept scanning. The woman in yellow was still there, now seated at a far table, talking to no one. She watched Ethan more than she watched the party. Mia ran up, breathless and laughing, throwing her arms around his neck. "Having fun?" she asked. Ethan forced a smile. "Best night." She leaned in, whispered, "Tomorrow's the big family brunch. That's when they really judge." He chuckled hollowly. The song changed. Mia tugged him toward the crowd, and for a while he let go. They danced, twirled, kissed under the lights. But then he caught her eye again, the other woman's. Unblinking. Watching. Ethan froze mid-step. "Oui, Chunzi." Ethan froze. Mia laughed. Unaware. "Come on," she said. But Ethan had already let go. Later, after the laughter died down and the kids were tucked into guest rooms, Mia stood alone in the kitchen, sipping leftover punch. Her feet ached but her heart felt full. She was rinsing glasses when Ethan walked in, distracted, edgy. She smiled. "You disappeared on me." He rubbed his neck. "Just needed air." She handed him a towel. "Everything okay?" He nodded, too quickly. "Of course." She leaned in, gently cupping his face. "You can be honest with me, always." He hesitated, then kissed her forehead. "I know." As she turned to put away dishes, he watched her with a pained expression. The kitchen felt quieter than it should. The weight of unspoken things crept in like fog. Outside, the woman in yellow stood in the shadows of the porch, looking in through the glass. She was smiling. Ethan saw her. He didn't smile back. He didn't move at all. Breakfast was in full swing. Long tables were set under the canopy of trees, plates stacked high with scrambled eggs and cinnamon rolls. Nia buzzed between relatives, glowing with purpose, introducing Ethan again and again. "He's mine," she joked. "You can't keep him." People laughed. Ethan played his role flawlessly, smiling, helping pass dishes, complimenting Aunt June's blueberry jam. Then came the moment Mia didn't expect. "Oh, and this is Celeste," her cousin Lily said casually, motioning to the woman in yellow. "She came with one of the city friends." Nia turned, stunned to see her up close. Celeste, composed, beautiful, and painfully familiar. "We haven't met, right?" Nia asked. Celeste smiled. "Not officially." Ethan coughed. "She's just visiting." Nia gave him a curious look, brows knitting slightly. Celeste held out her hand. "You're lucky, Mia. Ethan's unforgettable." Her tone was syrupy. The handshake was brief, but it was the eyes that held on. Mia stirred her coffee absently, sitting on the porch swing as conversations buzzed behind her. The introduction replayed over and over in her mind, Celeste's tone, that cryptic smile. Something didn't feel right. Ethan joined her a moment later, sitting beside her too casually. "You okay?" he asked. Nia hesitated. "How do you know her?" His body tensed slightly. "I don't, not really. Met her once at a work thing, I think. Small world." She studied his face. "You sure?" She acted like she knew you. He smiled too quickly. "She's probably just trying to mess with you. Ignore it." Nia looked back out over the lawn. "I'm not the jealous type, but don't lie to me." Ethan wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "I'm not." But the pressure of his hand betrayed him. He held her too tightly, like someone afraid to lose their grip, not just on her, but on the truth unraveling beneath them. Later that afternoon, Mia wandered into the living room, looking for her phone charger. Celeste sat alone on the couch, scrolling through her phone with the ease of someone who belonged. Mia hesitated. "You're not with anyone from here, are you?" Celeste looked up, tilting her head. "Why do you ask?" Nia crossed her arms. "You seem too familiar with Ethan. You said things earlier that felt pointed." Celeste gave a slow smile. "Maybe I just like stirring the pot." Nia's tone sharpened. "Do you know him from before?" Celeste stood, approaching. "I know the version of him you haven't met yet." Nia blinked, confused. "What does that mean?" But Celeste just walked past her, whispering, "Ask him about San Diego." The name meant nothing to Mia. Yet something about the way Celeste said it made her skin prickle. Her instincts flared for the first time, not from jealousy, but from something colder. Recognition of a threat. Dinner was louder that night, filled with laughter and clinking glasses, but Mia felt distant, smiling through the static. She watched Ethan joke with her uncles, his charm untouched. But now, she saw the performance. Every touch, every laugh. It was too rehearsed. She whispered to Tasha, "Do you remember anything about San Diego?" Tasha raised a brow. "No. Why?" Nia shook her head. "Just curious." Across the table, Celeste raised her glass in a silent toast to Ethan. Their eyes locked. It lasted only a second, but it said too much. Nia set down her fork. I need air. She slipped away and found herself in the hallway where family photos lined the walls, faces frozen in time. Behind her, footsteps. She turned. It was her cousin Arya. You okay? Nia hesitated. Do you know who Celeste is? Arya glanced over her shoulder. I don't think she's just a guest. I heard her arguing with Ethan yesterday. Back in her childhood bedroom, Mia sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. Her reflection in the mirror looked foreign, haunted. She opened her browser and typed, Ethan, San Diego. Headlines popped up. None recent. But one caught her breath. A conference photo. Ethan. Celeste. Smiling, arm in arm. Not barely acquainted. Not once at work. A slideshow autoplayed, one frame of them laughing in a bar, another dancing at some gala. Mia stared, heart hammering. He had lied. She picked up the invitation still tucked in her bag, then looked at the mirror. You said he was your future, she whispered. Her hands shook. Downstairs she could hear Ethan laughing. He sounded like the man she loved. But the man in the photos, he was someone else. Mia stood, heart fractured, clarity settling in like a storm front. Tomorrow, she would confront him. But tonight, she mourned the girl who didn't know better. The next morning, Mia woke early, a dull weight in her chest. She didn't speak during breakfast, barely touching her food as relatives chatted around her. Ethan kissed her temple and said, You okay? She nodded, lying with her eyes. After everyone dispersed, she crept back upstairs and opened her laptop. She found the conference name printed on the photo she'd saved. Another search, deeper this time. Event site. Type. Speakers. Panels. And one name jumped out, Celeste Hanley, Crisis Communications Specialist. Ethan had worked for that company 2 years ago. Mia clicked the speaker profile. It was her. Same soft eyes, same yellow dress energy, only back then she'd been smiling without secrets. A bio line struck like lightning, former partner and consultant for Westmark Communications. Ethan's old job. Former partner. The air left Mia's lungs. She wasn't just a woman he knew. Celeste had once been his partner. Professionally. Romantically. Both. Later that afternoon, Mia confronted Ethan outside while he grilled in the backyard. Smoke curled around them as kids screamed in the distance. She stood beside him, arms crossed. You lied, she said plainly. Ethan froze mid-turn of a skewer. About what? She pulled out her phone, held up the photo. You said you barely knew her, but this says otherwise. His eyes flicked to the image. He didn't speak. Were you with her? She asked, voice tighter. Ethan set the tongs down, wiping his hands slowly. It was years ago. It meant nothing. I didn't think it mattered anymore. Then why lie? She shot back. He stepped closer. Because I didn't want to ruin this. Us. Mia laughed bitterly. You brought her here, Ethan, whether you meant to or not. His mouth opened, then closed. She said she was in town. I didn't expect her to actually show, but the damage was already spreading. Mia sat on the porch steps later, lost in thought, when Arya approached cautiously, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. You okay? She asked. Mia shook her head. How long has he been lying to me? Arya sat beside her. I wasn't sure if I should say anything. Yesterday I passed by the laundry room. I heard them arguing. Mia turned slowly. About what? Arya hesitated. It was hushed, but I caught a few words. History, mistake, and something like, you weren't supposed to come. Mia's lips parted. He knew she'd be here. Arya nodded. He looked, scared, like she had something on him. Mia stared into the distance, heart pounding. She's not just a ghost, she's a warning. Arya took her hand gently. You don't deserve this. Nia blinked hard against the tears threatening to fall. For the first time, she truly felt betrayed. Not just by Ethan, but by the version of herself that had refused to see it coming. Nia didn't wait for night to fall. She found Celeste alone in the upstairs hallway, leaning casually against the wall as if expecting her. "Why are you here?" Nia demanded. Celeste didn't flinch. "I told you, I came with a friend." Nia stepped closer. "You were with him before, just say it." Celeste's lips curved slightly. "Yes, years ago, it ended, but not for the reasons you think." Nia's voice cracked. "Then why are you here now?" Celeste tilted her head. "Because he doesn't learn. He runs from his messes. I'm just one of many." Nia clenched her fists. "Then you came to expose him?" Celeste shook her head. "I came to see if he changed, to see if he still lies." She paused. "And I wanted you to see it too." Nia's breath caught. "Why me?" Celeste met her eyes. "Because you remind me of who I used to be, before him." The silence afterward roared. Dinner, that night, was unbearable. Laughter floated like echoes through a fog. Nia sat beside Ethan, barely touching her plate. Across the table, Celeste ate in silence, like a storm contained in skin. No one noticed the quiet war. When Aunt June raised a toast, Nia stood suddenly, glass in hand. "Can I say something?" All heads turned. Ethan stiffened. Nia looked at him. It's easy to fake a life. Smile. Play the role. Be what everyone wants." She turned to her family. "But lies rot everything they touch." Ethan stood. Nia, don't." She faced him, tears held back by rage. "You lied. About her. About who you were. And I let you." A long pause. "I won't any more." She placed the glass down gently. "Enjoy your meal." And walked out, head held high, heart in pieces, but spine unbroken. Behind her, chairs scraped. Voices whispered. But Ethan didn't follow. He just stared at his plate, finally silent. Nia didn't sleep that night. Instead, she wandered the quiet house like a ghost, ending up in the den where old photo albums were kept. She flipped through a dusty leather-bound one, full of childhood moments, her 5th birthday, high school graduation, last year's reunion. And then, something different. A small envelope tucked between the pages. Inside, a printed email. The subject line read, Westmark client fallout. Urgent. The sender? Celeste Hanley. Her breath caught. It was a forwarded chain from 2 years ago. Celeste had sent it to Ethan. The language was professional, clipped, but the subtext was clear. "You made promises. I trusted you. And now I'm cleaning it up alone." Nia's hands trembled. This wasn't just an ex. This was someone he had ruined. Career? A company? A life? And now she was here not to take Ethan back, but to make sure Mia didn't fall the same way. The next morning, Mia found herself outside by the lake, the only place untouched by the chaos. The surface shimmered calmly, unlike her mind. She heard footsteps. "Ethan. I figured you'd be here," he said quietly. She didn't look at him. "Why didn't you tell me about Westmark, about Celeste?" He stood beside her. "Because I was ashamed. I screwed up. I ruined a deal, broke trust, and hurt her. I thought I could start over with you." Mia turned, eyes flaring. "Start over? Or just bury the past deep enough I'd never find it?" Ethan exhaled. "It wasn't love with her. It was ambition. You're the only one I've ever really loved." She laughed bitterly. "Don't say that like it matters now. You chose lies over truth." Again. His shoulders slumped. "I didn't want to lose you." She stared at him. "Then you shouldn't have brought your mistakes with you." Later that day, Celeste sat alone on the garden bench, a book unopened in her lap. Nia approached slowly, the silence between them thick. I read the email, Mia said. Celeste didn't react. He left it hidden in a photo album. Celeste glanced up. Of course he did. That's how he survives, by pushing things into corners and hoping they die there. Mia sat beside her. Why come here? Celeste shrugged. To remind him what he's capable of. To remind myself I survived it. Mia asked, was it love? Celeste turned to her. It was something that dressed itself up as love, then burned like acid when it was done. A beat passed. I don't want him, Celeste added. I came so you wouldn't wake up one day, wondering who you were before him. Mia whispered. And who was I? Celeste smiled faintly. Someone who believed in him, but more importantly, someone who can now believe in herself. The reunion began to wind down by late afternoon. Cars were packed, hugs exchanged, laughter slowly dimming. Mia stood at the edge of the driveway, watching families say their goodbyes. Ethan emerged from the house, suitcase in hand. So, what happens now? He asked. Mia looked at him, the man she had once imagined forever with. Now, I go home. Alone. His face faltered. That's it. She nodded. You brought another woman to meet my family, lied to my face, hid who you were. I didn't plan it this way, he pleaded. But you let it happen, she said. And now I can't unsee it. Silence fell like rain. He stepped forward. Mia. She raised a hand. Please don't say anything you think will fix this, just don't. Ethan stopped. Mia turned, walking toward her car without looking back. This time, she wouldn't let love blind her. This time she'd drive away with her eyes wide open. As the car rolled down the country road, trees blurring past the window, Mia didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just breathed. In John. Out. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of clarity. Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. I'm sorry. I'll love you forever. She read it once, then deleted it. No response. No lingering ache. Just peace. She pulled into a gas station and stepped out, stretching beneath the open sky. A stranger held the door for her with a nod. The world kept turning. As she walked inside, her reflection caught in the glass door. A woman changed. Not broken. Not bitter. Just wiser. When she returned to the car, she whispered to herself, "You're going to be okay." It wasn't a declaration. It was a promise. And this time, it was one she knew would be kept. Not by someone else, but by herself. The house felt hollow without Ethan's presence, but not in a painful way. More like a room aired out after years of stifling heat. Mia returned to her apartment that evening. The scent of lavender lingered faintly from an old candle. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes and collapsed on the couch. There were no tears this time, just silence. She looked around at the space they had once shared, photos still on shelves, a pair of his socks half hidden under the coffee table. She didn't rush to clean them up. She sat with them. Let herself feel the discomfort. Let it pass. Then slowly, she pulled down the photo of the two of them in the mountains, the one where he kissed her cheek and she looked like she believed in forever. Mia stared at it. Then turned the frame down on the table, face hidden. A soft exhale escaped her lips. Step 1. In the following days, Mia moved through the world with a different rhythm. She walked to her favorite cafe instead of driving, savoring each step. She stopped to pet strangers' dogs. She opened her journal for the first time in months and wrote one simple line, "You survived him." The barista remembered her name. A woman complimented her earrings. Small things, meaningless to others, but grounding for her. She took herself out for lunch, sat by the window, and smiled at the way the sun hit her glass of water. There was no rush to fill the silence. No urge to explain her aloneness. She realized she wasn't lonely, just rediscovering herself. She caught her reflection in the cafe mirror. No makeup, hair tied messily, a calm in her eyes. Not untouched by hurt, but unburdened. A softness returning. She raised her coffee to herself and thought, "You're still here." It was enough. One afternoon, while cleaning out drawers, Mia found Ethan's sweater. Navy, soft, once her favorite to steal. She held it briefly, breathing in faded traces of cologne, before folding it neatly into a donation box. No anger. No hesitation. Just release. She began a quiet purge, his toothbrush, his mug, a pile of shared mementos. Each item carried weight, and with each removal, she felt lighter. Not because she hated him, but because she was done carrying his shadow. She played music as she worked. Something upbeat, unapologetically loud. She danced between drawers, laughing at her mess. When she finished, she sank onto the floor, surrounded by empty boxes and open windows. Sunlight pooled across the hardwood. She wasn't erasing history. She was reclaiming space. Rewriting the narrative. The one where love didn't end in devastation, but in clarity. She smiled to herself. This is what healing sounds like. That weekend, Mia met Tasha at the park. The late sun dipped low, brushing the trees in amber light. They walked side by side, sneakers crunching over gravel. "You look lighter," Tasha said. Mia smiled. "I feel like myself again, maybe for the first time in a long while." Tasha linked arms with her. "You scared me, you know. I thought he'd break you." Mia looked out over the pond. "He almost did, but I've decided my worth won't be determined by someone else's betrayal." They sat on a bench watching ducks float across the water. "Do you still love him?" Tasha asked gently. Mia was quiet. "I love who I thought he was, but the real him? No, that version. I can finally let go of." Tasha leaned on her shoulder. "I'm proud of you." And for the first time in weeks, Mia believed she deserved that pride. Not for walking away, but for choosing herself. As Sunday evening fell, Mia stood on her balcony, wrapped in a light sweater, a mug of tea in her hand. The city hummed below, lights blinking on like scattered stars. She breathed in the cool air. Her phone rested beside her on the table, silent. No new messages. No apologies. And for once, she didn't need one. She'd written her own closure. In quiet moments like these, she found pieces of herself she'd long silenced. Brave, intuitive, kind, and resilient. She thought of her younger self, the one who once believed that love had to hurt to be real. Mia smiled softly, almost sadly. "We know better now." Inside, her apartment glowed with newness. Books on the table, fresh flowers in the vase. A life still unfolding. She didn't have all the answers. But she had this moment. And in this moment, she was whole. She raised her mug toward the stars. To beginnings. Monday morning arrived like any other, but Mia didn't feel like the same woman. She stood before her mirror, adjusting the collar of her blazer, mascara wand steady in her fingers. This wasn't armor. It was intention. Today, she was interviewing for a new creative-led role, a position she once hesitated to apply for because Ethan had called it too much stress. Not anymore. She slipped her portfolio into her bag and grabbed her keys. Before walking out, she paused. On the hallway table lay a final trace of him, a key he'd left behind. Mia stared at it for a long moment, then dropped it into a drawer without ceremony. It didn't deserve space on her path forward. She shut the drawer gently, the click echoing through the quiet. The elevator doors opened. Her reflection smiled back at her in the mirrored panel. Not a woman scorned. A woman reborn. The office buzzed with quiet energy. Mia sat across from two interviewers, her voice steady, her answers sharp. She spoke about leadership, empathy, vision. Her ideas flowed, unfiltered and unapologetic. "What drives you?" one asked. Mia smiled. Reinvention. The ability to come back stronger even after a fall. Outside the glass wall, Clouds moved over a blue sky, sun breaking through as if on cue. She didn't try to perform perfection. She let her story breathe, mistakes, lessons, growth. The woman who once edited herself for comfort now stood fully formed. When the interview ended, one of them said, "That was powerful." Mia nodded. "So is starting over." She walked out lighter, chin lifted, heart racing not with fear, but with purpose. She didn't need to win anything back. She wasn't proving she was worthy. She already was. And finally, she believed it. That evening, Mia passed by her old bookstore, the one she and Ethan used to visit. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The familiar bell chimed. Rows of worn spines greeted her. She ran her fingers across titles, stopping at one, "The Things We Leave Behind." She opened it, flipping to a random page. A line stood out, "Closure isn't found in answers, it's found in acceptance." She closed the book gently. Nearby, a man browsing the same aisle offered a polite nod. Mia smiled, nodded back and moved on. It wasn't a moment soaked in meaning. It didn't need to be. She wasn't seeking a new story to replace the old. She was just here, living, breathing, howling. She bought the book and left the store, dusk turning the sky violet. The streetlights flickered to life. She walked home slowly, each step steady. The past didn't haunt her anymore. It simply existed behind her. Weeks later, fate offered one final sting. A coffee shop downtown. A familiar laugh. Mia turned. Ethan sat at a corner table, alone. He hadn't seen her. For a moment, she simply observed. He looked older. Or maybe just heavier. Not physically, but in energy. He sipped his drink, scrolling his phone, lost in thought. Mia felt nothing sharp. No ache. No anger. Just a strange kind of peace. She turned to leave, but paused. Something inside her said, "Look again." Ethan looked up, eyes meeting hers across the room. Recognition sparked. He gave a soft, tentative smile. She offered one back. Not warm, not cold. Just human. And then she walked out, wind catching her scarf, sun peeking through gray clouds. That moment didn't shatter her. It sealed her. The past had seen her, and now it had let go. Back home, the sun dipped below the skyline. Mia lit a candle on the windowsill, lavender again. The city pulsed softly beyond the glass. She curled up on the couch with her new book, legs tucked beneath her. The silence was no longer empty, it was chosen. She read the final line of the novel aloud, and she walked on, not because she was strong, but because she had finally stopped waiting to be rescued. Mia closed the book, smile, soft, breath steady. Her phone buzzed on the table, group chat lighting up with messages. Tasha. Her sister. 1T. A coworker. Life calling, not demanding. She replied briefly joyfully, then turned off the screen. The candle flickered beside her like a heartbeat. The night stretched before her, wide and forgiving. Not every ending is loud. Some arrive in whispers, gentle and true. Mia leaned back and whispered to herself, "You made it." And for once, that was enough.